Hello, everybody. Welcome back to season two, the first episode of season two of Searching for Political Identity. It is a pleasure to be with you. Let me start off in a way that I wasn't anticipating starting off. I have a bunch of notes here and I have a whole agenda that I'm going to get to, but interesting aside here. My fiance is in Europe right now. She's returning Monday. She's been gone for 10 days. I miss her dearly. I love her so much. I'm so lucky and so corny, but we're getting married in November and it's just an awesome time for me. I'm so thrilled about it. But she's out of town, so my boy's over. I got my buddy staying with me and we're having a good time watching South Park, which I will talk about, and hanging out like we always used to. And he's a great guy. He's not super into politics. He's very smart, and he's a really interesting person, but he's not really up to speed on all the day to day stuff, even less so than I am. And for some reason, I don't know what he was looking at on his phone before I walked into my office to come record this. He says, "What is the difference between woke left and woke right? I don't get it. Like, isn't there just one woke and this and that?" And I said, "Dude, you really don't watch my podcast, do you?" And I'm not trying to plug myself here, but it was on January 9th of this year. I recorded a video, an episode explaining the exact difference between woke left and woke right, asserting that I think the woke right there is such a thing as it. And that was actually my most watched video. So I said to him I said, "Dude, I don't have time. I'm about to go record. I have a whole agenda to get to, but I'll give it to you in one sentence, Evan." Oh, I just gave away his name. No, Billy. I said, "Billy," just kidding. I said, "Evan." So he said, "What is it?" I said, "The woke left are people who believe that the systems in America are all designed to cater to the preferences, needs, and cultural preferences of white people, particularly straight white people. They say America is built for white people, and so therefore it needs to be reformed." Okay, simple. Woke right basically says, no, we need to get back to the time when America was legitimately only for white people. So it's not a perfect mirror of each other, but it's a really helpful tool, I think, framework to talk about race relations in this country and the extreme sides on both. And the one caveat I gave him is I said, "Evan, in my opinion, there is such a thing as the woke right. And it's really just an interchangeable word to say the white supremacists on the right. I think they're a much smaller part of the right than the woke left is of the left. In other words, I think there's a larger presence of woke left than there is woke right, but nonetheless, they're both a serious problem, in my opinion. That's what I basically said in that episode, and that's what I'm saying now. So, anyway, getting that out of the way, hello, everybody. I hope you're doing well. I wanted to start this episode, this first season, this first episode of this new season, this new chapter, talking about the founding fathers, because I just read a Bill O'Reilly book about all the presidents, which I found really interesting, and I'm going to talk a little bit about briefly. But it got me really in the mindset of the founding fathers, and you know, just a reminder that this feud that we have now, these debates about the structure of our government and how things should operate, it traces back to the founding. I mean, we know this, but it's interesting to be reminded of that. Let me take a sip of tea here. Pardon me. It's been a while since I did this. So my point about the founders is there's an internal debate baked into the Constitution. That's what the Constitution is. It's basically a freezing of the debate, and the debate rages on because it's an amenable document. And so here we are, searching for our political identities, trying to make the best out of things. But the founders were on a search, and so I really dig that. It was a dynamic process for them, and it's a dynamic process now for all of us. It's a dynamic process for me. So I'm changing. I'm allowed to change my mind. I've done it before. I'll do it again. And who knows where this journey ends. But regarding the founders, some of it, the debate, was about basic morality stuff like slavery and the treatment of Native Americans. So there's not much to debate there. Some of it was wrong, and we just have to deal with that and accept that and learn from it. And we shouldn't hide it. But some of the debate really was about the structure and purpose of the government, and that's legitimate. And so that's what I'm kind of keying on to. I'm not saying America wasn't founded partially in sin. It was. It's an ugly, beautiful, tragic, hypocritical, gruesome, beautiful, inspiring story, this country. So this is where I'm at in my political journey. I decided to vote for Trump because critical race theory really turned me off. Not only critical race theory, but even more so, I would say the attitudes of the classmates that I had while learning critical race theory. It was just a turnoff, man. Combine that with everything I'd learned in law school, it kind of law school just had the effect of nudging me to the right a little bit from where I was at the time. It had the effect of grounding me. And I said, no, individual rights. This is a great country. People are free now. We should all just kind of, take accountability for our own lives, not expect too much from the government, expect our locality and our family to help us when we need it for the most part, and kind of build off of that. And I met a lot of libertarians and I found that ideology socially and economically to be intriguing and compelling. And so I wasn't ready to go all the way for libertarians, but that's kind of where I am. So I voted for Trump over Harris because she just wasn't impressive. And as I'll get into, despite Trump's flaws and the serious misgivings I had about him, after all, I didn't vote for him in 2016 or 2020. Um, I got there, and that's just what it is. So do I like everything? So I think he's a good president. I think he's doing a good job. Am I perfectly comfortable with everything? No, I'm not. I mean, who would be? I mean, there are people who are, but I'm not. I'm not perfectly comfortable with everything. Do I think he has the best character in the world? No. But that one's actually complicated because I do think there's a lot of positive character traits that he has. He's very charming, he's funny, he's fierce, he's warm, he's got vision. On the other hand, he's petty, he's cruel, he's vindictive. So I overlooked a lot of negatives about the guy, and I voted for him. And I got a little proud about it. And I got a little carried away on X, I would say. Just a little carried away about, oh my God, look at all this love and support I'm getting from MAGA. Yeah, let me double down. Let me triple down. Let me say things just for the sake of getting likes now. Because for 4 years, I was plugging away with the podcast and really, no hits, no virality, nothing like that. And then when I announced in the height of the election, hey, I'm voting for Trump, I became one of those people who kind of got their platform elevated a little bit. So I think looking back on it, yes, a little bit of audience capture, all of that. But I think more than anything, I just was intrigued and fascinated by the idea that I could change the way I voted. Like, of course, I knew that, but I always voted for Democrats up until 2024. And so it kind of blew my own mind. I said, wow, I did it. I changed my mind. I went against my family. I went against my this and that. So the thing is, though, and so I retired the podcast a few weeks ago because I said, you know what, I'm getting married. Work is evolving in a positive direction. Things are happening, and this has outlived its purpose. I've landed on I'm a Trump supporter, but I'm starting to realize that saying I hate critical race theory and that I like the way Trump operates and that he was way more impressive than Harris is not a political identity. It's just not. Now, let me tell you, I referenced that Bill O'Reilly book, Confronting the Presidents. So he has that whole killing series that I look forward to getting to. But he also has this series called Confronting the whatever thing and Confronting the President. So each chapter is dedicated to a president. Very cool. I mean, you get a little dose of American history through the lens of each president. Well, I mean, that's fantastic. And so I want to tell you a brief little aside about William Howard Taft, if I may, after a sip. Um, just this whole story is just that Bill O'Reilly and his co-author Martin Dugard say in the book that Taft goes down as a poor president because he lacked decisiveness. And I'm just bringing that up to say that Trump doesn't have that problem. He has a lot of problems, but he is decisive. Like I said before, he does have vision. There are strong qualities about the guy that make him a good executive. And so that's just where I am. He cut quite a strong contrast to Harris. And so, you know, look, the point here is that I'm trying to find the blend of conservatism, progressivism, and libertarianism that fits my personality. I hope that you see that my intentions are good and that I'm looking to find out what the best thing to do for people is and for what our country is. So I appreciate you understanding my flip flop regarding whether or not I'm going to shut down this podcast. I just do feel like I have more work to do. I've made mistakes along the way, like I referred to earlier. I got a little carried away, fell victim to audience capture a little bit. But I do think I've built up a solid platform here to address major issues in our country and try to play a modest role in healing the divide. I do believe I've developed some goodwill, and I want to use that to make myself and the country a little bit better. I want to keep learning. So season 2 is all about going deeper into history, deeper into current events. It's about scrutinizing the direction I've gone in recent years. It's about scrutinizing my support for Trump, scrutinizing my evaluation of CRT. Maybe I was just going through something and wasn't the right time for me to study CRT. Maybe if I take another look at it, I'll say, you know what? I overreacted to CRT. I got a little carried away. I can separate the material from the kids who I was 10 years older than in law school who have no life experience and were just spouting out ridiculous, ignorant, insulting, vicious, hateful things about white people, about America. I can let that go, look at the material separately and say, you know what? There is value to the material. I don't know. But that's what season 2 is all about. So I may double down. I may double down on Trump. I may double down on Trumpism. I may go in an opposite direction. I may say, you know what? I had it right. I don't regret anything, but I'm going this path. Who knows? But that's what season 2 is all about. So I want to mention now that Boo, one of my favorite followers, mentioned that he would like me to talk about some building blocks for what could bring us together as a country. And I thought that was kind of a cute idea. So this is what Boo's list consisted of. Love of animals. What do we all do, no matter what's happening? Love of animals, pain at loss, and the care we have for one another. I thought that was a great list. What a great list. Let's humanize each other. Let's get back to that. Not to say that we're not going to have fights and ideological divides and that we shouldn't and that it's not going to get vicious. But let's stay rooted in humanity. My 2 cents on that list is we all want the same thing, a thriving America. We just have disagreements on how to get there. And there are some extremists, and we have to handle those strongly. But for the most part, in terms of the general debates about politics, we all want the same thing. Just have a different disagreement how we get there. So I am going to get to Epstein and I am going to get to Obamagate. But first, I have a few other things on the agenda. All right. The 2 things that I want to talk to you about first are these lessons that he's not my rabbi, the rabbi that's going to be marrying Alexa and I in November. I had a meeting with him yesterday and he gave me 3 unbelievable tips for a healthy marriage according to Jewish law and tradition. And it blew my mind. And I'm going to share those with you, but I have to go get them from my backpack. I forgot them. So in a second, I'm going to pause the video, grab them. It'll just be 30 seconds. After I go through the rabbi lessons, I'm going to talk about South Park, and then we'll get to the meat and potatoes of today's episode. So thank you very much for being here. Give me 10 seconds, okay? I'm going to pause this if I can. Actually, you know what? I don't know how to pause it, so I'm just going to get up and get it. 1 sec. Okay, sorry about that. Not a great I'm rusty. That's okay. This is amazing stuff. This is you know, an Orthodox rabbi. Um this is not the world I grew up in. I'm Jewish, I'm a reformed Jew, but I'm one of those Jews, you know what I mean? I really don't know what's going on. So this was a lesson for me. So, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here. I don't think I'm violating any trust with the rabbi. He gave me great advice. I'm sharing it with my audience. Sue me. Okay. Three ingredients for a successful marriage. His first point was that there are 2 types of love, what according to Jewish law and tradition. Watery love and fiery love. The love of water and the love of fire, or the love that is like water and the love that is like fire. The love of water, the watery love is naturally there. It's innate. It's flowing like mother to child, natural, flowing. It's just there. The fiery love, it needs to be fed, but you can't feed it too much because then it'll burn rather than heat. And so, of course, the marital relationship, the spouse relationship is like a fiery love. It's not natural. You got to feed that thing. And so, just going through the notes here, the perfect relationship for the husband and the wife is a balance between love, which is like closeness, and respect, which is like distance. And so, you don't want to feed this relationship too much. You want to just keep it steady. And he might even say that respect is actually more important than love. So, chew on that. Um, Lots of love and lots of respect is key, but maybe even more respect. Okay. Respect. So love is giving, offering, supporting, all that. But respect is encouraging the other to thrive in their own space. A relationship based on love alone is suffocating. So no one to come close, no one to stay away. That's the lesson of the love of fire. And then he gives this great um, analogy to porcupines in the winter. The question is, how do porcupines stay warm in the winter? If the idea is that animals cuddle throughout the winter to stay warm, how does a porcupine do that, right? Well, they gotta find that Goldilocks zone of not too close, so that you're not going to hit each other with your, but not too far, and so where you won't freeze. So that's kind of like the fire relationship. Apparently, the Talmud says, love the other as yourself, respect the other more than yourself. Okay. So focus on what you don't have in common. Respect relates to what you don't have in common. That was idea number one. Number two, talking about the concept of a kosher relationship. Um, I really didn't know this, to be honest with you. Jews keep kosher because we think we are what we eat. I took notes, so Jews are kosher because they believe they are what they eat. Um, so there's a vulture story. The vulture has great. This bird has tremendous vision, and it's forbidden though to eat the bird. And the rabbi says, you might say, well, I have terrible eyesight. I want to see better. Why wouldn't I eat that bird? Get the enhanced vision. But it's not about the eyesight capabilities of the bird. It's about what the bird focuses on. The bird is a vulture. It focuses on carcasses. And so the idea was we want to set our aims higher as Jews. I'm just telling you what he told me. Um, and then the third point is communication is key. Interestingly, the word for communication um, in Hebrew is also the same word for garden. So the concept of watering your garden, make the garden grow, lots of love, but communication is the water. So, once a week, set aside some time, no phones, bring up the frictions during that time and solve the problems at that time because you're now at a cool and natural period. You don't want to go to bed fighting, he said, of course, that whole thing, but you don't necessarily need to solve the problem that you find yourself in before you go to bed. Say, you know what? We're not happy right now, but we're not going to go to bed angry. Love you. Good night. And we'll solve it on Tuesday at lunch when we have our weekly catch up. So that was that. Okay. How am I doing so far, guys? Are we glad I'm back? Okay. Let's get into South Park now. Speaking of identity, South Park is about the closest thing you're going to get to an identity for me. I mean, I had a great uncle and great aunt who lived in Manhattan, and they had a dope ass apartment, condo, I guess. And it was really nice. And they were theater people. He was a very successful acting coach. I'm told the movie Fame is based on his life. My great uncle, he was an awesome guy, the coolest guy. And his wife, my great aunt Libby, was an actress. She was at one point the Wendy's, uh, you know, spokeswoman nationally. Very cool people, and they always had South Park toys littered throughout the apartment. Every drawer you open, there's a South Park wind up doll. So that was ingrained early in me, the appreciation for their stuff. And my gosh, am I a fan of South Park? I mean, you say, Brian, who's your idol? I'm going to say Trey Parker. Who's your idol? Your number one person that you would want to meet? Trey Parker. That's how big of a fan I am. Now, they didn't really know how to handle Trump, in my opinion, at first, which makes total sense. And this is what they had Mr. Garrison, if you're familiar with the show, they had one of their characters kind of pose as Trump for the first couple seasons. They tried to do him, and it kind of worked, but it kind of didn't make any sense at all. And they acknowledged like they didn't really know how to do Trump because they saw his personality is so big that it basically is satirical. And how do you satire satire? That makes perfect sense to me. So, nonetheless, they persisted, they tried, and so this new episode that came out on Wednesday, they switched it up. They got away from this other character posing as Trump, and what they did is they returned to an old um, trick they have, which is to treat characters that they really think are detestable, like Hitler, Saddam Hussein, and treat them in a certain way, make them look a certain way, but basically using their actual real face and kind of just no more games. Here's a cutout, a paper mache of Saddam Hussein or Hitler. In this case, now Donald Trump, just walking around in the episode. Donald Trump is a character now in the show. It worked. It was funny. Was it the best episode of all time? No. Was it a completely serviceable and appropriate entry into their catalog, worthy of respect of their quality of work? Yes, it was. It was a good episode. I was thrilled to see it. And yeah, they took aim at Trump, and but good for them. You know, that's life, baby. That's America. I got no problem with that. Um, some of it was legitimate, you know, some of the criticism. Some of it wasn't, which I kind of liked because it was like, hey, they're not just viciously saying we don't like Trump and here's our funny episode about it. It's maybe we don't like Trump, but we're also going to throw in some stuff that is clearly not true to let the audience know, hey, we're not being totally dead ass serious about this. We're not total haters. We're just kind of commenting on the state of things, which is what we do. And that's what they've always done. So speaking of commenting on the state of things, one of the main storylines of the episode was that woke is dead. You know, Trump won thanks to the help of people like me. We defeated woke, guys. We did it. And they tied that into the cancellation of NPR. I guess, you know, the federal government's withdrawing funding, whatever. NPR is not canceled, but, you know, they're going to have to find alternative funding, is the story from what I understand. And Cartman, but they interpreted that as NPR is canceled. And so what they did in the episode is Cartman, who, you know, is like the biggest jerk character, he's the most anti woke character of all time, classic jerk. He laments the fact that NPR is canceled because he said, dude, that was the greatest program of all time. That's where I got all my material. You know, that's where all the Jews and lesbians went to complain, is the line from the episode. And so Cartman is completely demoralized that we've defeated woke. And now he has an existential crisis. What is Cartman going to do with his life now that the woke shit is gone? So it was pretty cool. It's pretty good. I'm looking forward to next week's. I mean, this is season 27 for them. Um, they're so good. They're such geniuses. The movies, Basketball, so good. The Book of Mormon's so good. I've seen it twice now. So that was South Park. All right. Let me do another sip of tea and we'll get into the beef. Okay. Epstein files and Obamagate. First thing I want to say is I have no desire to be an investigative reporter. And part of that is an admission to say a lot of the work I did over the last 4 years was just interviewing people, but I didn't do a whole lot of deep diving research. I was in law school, I was taking the bar exam, I was working, I was podcasting. And so this is kind of one of the reasons I want to do another go at this is like I said, I got to do the work now. So I'll say it. I didn't do all the work before I voted for Trump, theoretically. So maybe I will find out that I made a mistake. I don't know. But my point is, prior to this, preparing for this episode, I did the most research I've ever done on current events involving Trump. And I'm going to give you my general thoughts on Epstein and the Epstein files and Obamagate. But I want to caveat by saying I'm not an investigative reporter. I didn't do that much research, and I'm not an expert. Okay? But here's how I'm seeing it so far, and I look forward to anyone commenting on this and correcting me and this and that. Okay. So the first thing about Epstein situation, what a horrible, infuriating, ugly, situation, and there should be full accountability. I mean, we're talking about kids, we're talking about underage girls and children. I mean, same thing, right? But you know, it's all bad. It's all bad. And let's just start with a strong principle. There should be full accountability for any crimes that were committed. All right. And let the chips fall where they may. Good. Good. This is easy. This is easy. My next point here is to say, before I get into anything else, that the Katie Johnson allegation against Trump from 2016, which I wasn't aware of until last week, starting to prepare for that, that's not a good story. Now, it was dismissed. The case, was dismissed. So, what are you going to do about that? What to make of that? But it's a terrible allegation. The allegation is that uh, in Trump's 50s or something, in Epstein's Manhattan apartment, Trump tied a 13-year-old girl who was an aspiring model to a bed and raped her several times, over a period of time or whatever. And Epstein did the same thing. Um, this is a bad story. I mean, I'm sure I heard that somewhere in 2016 when it was coming out. I was like, I mean, add that to the list of reasons I didn't vote for him at the time. So that's a connection to Epstein. It's a very bad allegation. It ain't good. Does it ring true? Rather than answer that, because it really wouldn't. Does it ring true? Could be. But we don't have evidence beyond the complaint that was dismissed. So why don't we just say this? It's a bad look. It's a knock. But is that alone going to take him out of power? I don't think so. It's wild that they were friends. It's wild that they were friends, is the next point. Now, Trump supporters will say everyone knew Epstein and they had a falling out and Trump kicked him out. There's no proof of wrongdoing. And that's good. That's a good line of argument. So let's just say, altogether, if it's proven that Trump had sex with the underage girls, he's got to go. He'd have to be removed from office. It would be a totally historical situation, but it would just be what it is, right? And I'm asking myself here, is there a world in which if he's found to have done something like that, that he serves the remainder of his term? I don't think so, right? and is held to account after he serves? I don't think so, right? He's got to be forced out of office at that point, right? You can't have that. So I'm obviously engaging in a hypothetical here. So just stating that. Now the doodle, can the doodle take him down? Let's assume it's authentic. At first, I thought the doodle was enough to take him down, like if it was verified. But then I noticed, the body of the female that is drawn in the doodle is not the body of an underage girl. It's actually clearly the body of a fully developed woman, big breasts, big hips. So despite the unnerving language in the note, and it is unnerving. I mean, he says enigmas never age. It's clearly a reference to having sex with underage girls. Despite the language in the note, you put it all together, it's like, is that a smoking gun even? Shit. He might, maybe it's not. I don't think it's a smoking gun, actually. So if you take a step back, I mean, his connections to Epstein are not good. This is all unproven, basically. And so if nothing changes, he's fine. But if more comes out, I think it could take him down. It could take him down. Some people ask, does MAGA care about Epstein? I said, of course they do. Now, MAGA is not Q. Don't read too much into that. I'm saying there's striations here maybe of how the importance people put on the allegations about Trump and Epstein. But I think most of MAGA cares about Trump. But it would be hard for some of them to cut Trump loose. I mean, think about this. Not to say that there's a cult situation going on here, but this guy is a strong leader. He is a strong character. He is a cult of personality. He is doing amazing things for the country from their perspective, saving the country. And then after all the bullshit, all the lies, all the stuff, now you're going to tell me, wait, the Epstein stuff was real and actually Trump's involved and he has to go too, that would be tough for a lot of people. I understand that. So that's just real. So, what would I say if the worst comes to pass? If it comes out to be true that Trump is this horrible guy who did horrible things with Jeffrey Epstein, would I say that I was duped? I don't think I could say that I was duped because, like I said, I wasn't really tracking the story at the time, and it wasn't important to me or a relevant story by the time 2024 rolled around and I started taking a hard look at Trump. So I would say I wasn't duped, but yeah, when you add that to the list of things that I overlooked that I don't like about Trump, that I held my nose on when I voted for him, it would make me go, damn, maybe I shouldn't have been so exuberant about my support for Trump after I made that decision. Maybe I should have held back a little bit. It's a very, very bizarre story, and just horrible that we're having to deal with this as a country. And ultimately, as much as I'm a fan of the guy, and I really have become a real fan of the guy, if it's proven, you got to cut him loose. All right. So that's Epstein. We'll see where that goes. I'm hoping it's nothing will be proven, and probably what do I think will happen? Maxwell's going to get pardoned ultimately. Trump is going to dodge it. You know, I think it's grazing him, and he's going to dodge it. And but we'll see. Now, Obamagate. This is really the Russian. What is Obamagate? It's really the story of the Russian hoax, but with a twist. The twist is, oh, look at what Tulsi Gabbard revealed. Obama initiated the hoax. So let's get into it a little bit. And again, I'm going deep for me, but if you want like the deep dives, go to Matt Taibbi or something like that. But the big picture here is it's almost like the story here is it's almost like Obama said, define interference, right? The reports from the intelligence agencies before the 2016 election said no foreign adversaries have the capabilities to execute cyber attacks on our election infrastructure. All right. Then, extremely immediately after Trump wins, you see this flurry of activity in the intelligence community to produce reports that conclude that Russia used cyber means to influence the election outcome. So, what is interference, right? The pre election reports focus on the election infrastructure, stability and safety and security of the election infrastructure, the voting machines, while the latter reports focused on the hacking of the DNC, Russia's hacking of the DNC, which was confirmed, and Russia's social media efforts to prop up Trump, which were also confirmed. So, my take on this is could it be that this was simply Obama's revenge for Trump's further claims? I mean, remember how viciously Trump attacked Obama about the birth certificate thing. I mean, you think that sat well with Obama? No. And I want to say that way back then in 2012, when the birther story was really hitting, I was drinking the fire hose of mainstream media, but I wasn't really paying that close attention. All I can tell you is that Bill O'Reilly, in confronting the presidents, in the essay that he wrote about Trump. So every president has a chapter, but Biden and Trump, because their legacies are not set yet, instead of getting a chapter where the authors unified their perspective, each author gave an essay on Biden, and each author gave an essay on Trump. And in O'Reilly's essay on Trump, he said, "Hey, I'm great friends with Trump. I really like the guy, but I told him back then the birther story is bullshit, dude." So for the sake of this analysis, I'm taking Bill O'Reilly's word, okay? I mean, my God, the guy coined the phrase "no spin zone." So and I remember Chris Matthews interviewing Trump before he got elected the first time, and he said that was the original sin of your campaign, though, man. That was the original sin. So obviously that didn't sit well with Obama. So is it possible that what I'm about to describe to you and what I've described already is Obama saying "fuck you" on the way out? Well, that could be. So here's basically a little more on the story. Matt Taibbi on Megyn Kelly made the following points. There's a lack of evidence that Russia had the intent to help Trump or excuse me, let me rephrase this. It's not clear at all that Russia was trying to help Trump versus trying to weaken Hillary. Hillary was the presumed winner. And so by hacking the DNC emails, by shitting on Hillary, could you say that Russia was just doing what they always did, which is try to sow chaos, try to weaken the presumptive nominee? I mean, wow. And then you go, this whole story is kind of extrapolated from the fact that it appears that Obama directed the intelligence communities to reprioritize and reassess their evaluation and say, don't focus on the integrity of the voting machines, focus on what Russia did on social media. And the argument is that the whole narrative got manufactured. Yes, Russia did things, it's been proven, but the certainty of their intent was not proven. And that was politicized. And that was leaked to the press the same day Obama allegedly directed his team to reevaluate in short order. So this doesn't look right. It doesn't look normal. So I think ultimately that was there smoke with Russian collusion? I won't even say there was smoke, but maybe there was a little smoke. Investigate. That's fine. Go for it. I don't care. Why wouldn't I want you to investigate a presidential candidate to see if he's, colluding with a foreign government? So be it. Fine. But well, I kind of just lost my train of thought. But yeah, the same day leak. Investigate it. Go for it. I don't know. Was there smoke? Was there fire? It's not super clear. Did Obama commit seditious conspiracy? Like I said, let there be an investigation. Ultimately, I think here's my verdict. This is going to land somewhere between a nothing burger and a little bit of inappropriate revenge for the birther stuff that I think Obama's going to get away with. So either there was a little bit of smoke there and it was appropriate for Obama to say, you know what? Let's get this on record. Yeah, they didn't hack the voting machines, but take a look at what they did online. Take a look at what they did do. Okay, that wouldn't be the end of the world. But if it was maliciously manufactured to hamper Trump, you go, geez, that isn't good. That's not appropriate. But is it a crime? Is it just a maybe? And if it is, hey, investigate. And if it is, let the chips fall where they may. But is it also possible that it was just Obama, like I said, saying, fuck you, man, enjoy this on the way out the door? How horrible is it that we have to contend with these two stories, the Epstein files and the Russia hoax? I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just saying it sucks for America that this is the shit we have to focus on. I don't want to focus on this shit. I want to focus on political philosophy and why free market stuff that Trump's aligned himself with is better for the economy than the Bernie Sanders type of thinking. I don't want to do people. I want to do ideas. This is supposed to be an intellectual show, an intellectual pursuit. So it's just we're in such a low gutter place with our politics, and maybe Trump is responsible for it 50%, 30%, 80%. Maybe the media is responsible for it 30, 50, 80. I don't know. But everyone's got a little blame and it sucks. Nonetheless, we got to deal with it. This is where we are. So Obamagate, it could be a nothing burger. It could be a little bit of a story where Obama did something inappropriate to screw Trump because he was pissed off and wanted revenge. And if that's the case, then you do have to investigate. And I would assume and hope, I believe what I just said. I think I would hope and assume that it wouldn't go anywhere. But geez, what an ugly thing. So I don't like how Trump throws around the word treason. I don't. This is not good, man. But I can understand why he's pissed. But you started it, Trump, didn't you? With Obama? So, but But two rights don't make a wrong. So even with the birther stuff, you wouldn't absolve Obama from responsibility from saying, hey, dude, like, if you did something inappropriate here, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, I understand you hate the guy and you have good reason to. And he dogged you for years about you being an illegitimate president. My God. I don't know. That's kind of all I've got for today. I'm going to reach out to people like I did in the past 4 years who I think are interesting: authors, activists, politicians, comedians, people who are experts in technology, science, space, you name it. I'm going to broaden this thing and do solo episodes as well. Forgive me for being a little shaky on my return back to the microphone here, but it's very exciting. I'm very grateful, and I'm just not done. I'm just not done. Um, you know, Figuring out what the right blend of political ideology is for me and what I really believe in, and then translating that to on the ground. Okay, Brian, you figured it out up here. Now, what does that look like on Earth? I'm a long way from the end of that road, and many people say it never ends, but that's the journey I'm on. So I appreciate it. Thank you for being with me, and please feel free to share any thoughts you have about this. And I will see you next time. Okay, have a good one. Bye.